Alright, pardon me. Hello and welcome everyone to my first set of videos for MTGEdmonton.com. If anyone has watched me stream or record before, welcome back. And to anyone who's just now watching me play Moto for the first time, welcome. So my name is Zach, and I usually play at Star Lotus Games if you play in Edmonton. And today we're going to be playing the list I top-aided the Warp 2 pptq with. It's Blue-White Flash, as you can see. Um, and we're just going to be playing a competitive league today, and hopefully giving you guys some entertainment and insight on how this deck goes. So, just a quick few thoughts on the deck. You'll notice the list is more or less standard. I'll just call your attention to a few of the more interesting things. So, um, our flex slots are, we do have Thalia's main board, which I've been pretty impressed with, and we are playing 2 copies of Declaration in Stone and 3 Stasis Snares. Some people play 4 and 1, some people mix the configuration up a little bit more. I like Declaration in Stone slightly more because I expect a lot of Delirium, and being able to clear away Ishkanah tokens is really important, and it's also slightly more proactive because you can because it costs 2, you can just like deck and stone plus play a 2-drop on turn 4. Just the extra mana less sometimes makes it slightly better than the 4th Stasis Snare. I have played versions with other cards in those slots, like main deck negates and revolutionary rebuffs, but I've kind of settled on this list is what I like. So that's what we're going to go with. The list does have a Westvale Abbey. You'll notice that some lists play this, some lists don't. I think almost all Blue-White Flash players will say that their mana is deceptively bad. You would think it's like pretty good. Um, so some people have cut it. It's been like reasonable enough for me. It's done enough work that I'm keeping it in. I know some people have cut it, and I totally understand why. It's kind of comes down to a personal preference thing. Moving over to the sideboard again, it's somewhat standard, but there's a little bit more flavor to it. So um, sort of the standard package that everyone is playing is you play some number of the angels, you play a Jace, uh, and then you play like one extra like removal spell. Everything else is kind of basically up to you. So most lists run some number of counter spells. The suite I'm currently playing is 2 negate, 2 spell shrivel, 1 void shatter. You'll notice. So this is again a lot of it's up to personal preference. The list that won, I believe it was GP Santiago, but it may have been the other GP that weekend, 2 weekends ago. He played 4 Spell Shrivel in his main board, and the top 8 was 6 Delirium decks and him, and then like some other random deck, I forget what it is. But this guy just crushed Delirium, presumably just playing 4 Spell Shrivels. And so I like Spell Shrivel, but I couldn't bring myself to play 4. I haven't tested 4 yet. Uh, so when I was making this list, I was going off kind of hybridizing a bunch of lists, and I really like Negate because of the 2 mana counterspell lets you leave up a clue, and it's pretty innocuous whether or not you have a Negate. And I like at least one hard counter, and Spell Shovel will counter most of the things you care about in the Delirium or Control matchups, which is normally when you're bringing in counter spells. But I didn't really want to bring in a 4th counter spell against Delirium. I will not be bringing in Negates in general. Sometimes I'll bring in one, it kind of depends how I'm feeling. Anyway, so that's kind of how I feel about counter spells. You're bringing them obviously all in against any sort of control deck and usually any artifact-based combo deck. You'll bring them all in just because they are attacking you on an axis. A lot of your main deck rule doesn't apply against. Uh, One Unvala is like pretty standard. You bring this in against like sometimes vehicles, depending. You're on the player draw, and you'll bring it in against. It's good against the mirror. You know, matches where you need to go slightly over top to win the creature war to come back. Um, I play 3. People usually play like 3-ish, 3 to 4 removal spells against aggro. I kind of have a mix here because I'm still trying to figure out what I like. I think at least one copy of Blessed Alliance is basically always great. Um, the untap effect is that lets you blow people out a lot. I like that, but at the same time, there are a lot of random creatures people can attack with, and so the sacrifice mode's not as good. I like one glare. The fragmentized could probably be another glare. Um, because I have the second deck in Stone main, I don't have, like, some people will play 2 deck in Stones in the sideboard, but there's no reason to play 4, I've found. So that's kind of where I'm at. The one innovation that I'm pretty happy with that I've come up with is Key to the City. Um, so this card is basically for Delirium, where you have a very hard time attacking for the last 5 to 10 points of combat damage. Um, Specifically against Ishkuna. You also have a very hard time sticking Smuggler's Copter because of Grasp of Darkness and any enchantment or artifact removal they bring in. And so what Key to the City does is it lets you get the Copter effect without it being vulnerable to all the creature removal that Copters is weak to, and it lets you push through damage, which is really important. And if you ask a lot of Delirium players, the way that the way Blue-White Flash usually beats Delirium is by out-tempoing them, playing that sort of very aggressive style and backing it up with a couple counter spells like Spellquellers. Um, you know, just maintaining an aggression, reflector making their early creatures, stuff like that. And Key to the City lets you gives you that reach that you need to actually like win the game, put them to 0. So I've been playing 1 copy and I really like it. So that's basically what that card's for. Other than that, yeah, list is pretty standard. We're gonna go play a competitive league. While we're waiting for the queue, thoughts on standard in general right now? I think everyone's kind of where I think the top decks are Blue-White Flash, Green-Black Delirium, Marty Vehicles. And I actually think Red-Black Zombies is very good. It's got a very reasonable Blue-White Flash matchup and is one of our harder matchups. I am actively looking on ways to improve that matchup. And then, but Blue-White Flash is just the deck. It fits my play style, and I think it's really good for winning tournaments. So I would absolutely recommend this deck. But looks like we got a match. Assuming Moto doesn't crash. Just making sure I'm still recording. Alright, we're in. Ooh. I mean, now this hand looks like, this West Valley looks like garbage. I'm on the draw. God. I'm leaning towards keeping this hand, but this hand is pretty bad. Nah, I think the disciplined play is to mulligan this. If we don't draw a blue source or a creature that we can cast, like if we draw like Giddy and Avacyn or something like that, or blue spells, we just like die. This deck mulligans reasonably well. This hand is much better. I'll put that on the bottom. We're nowhere near casting it. Mountain turn 1. Okay, so he's like vehicles, I assume. Which is good. I do not actually get the chance to play against vehicles that much. So always leave it to Port Town, obviously. This deck's land sequencing does take a little bit of... Oh, Bowmaker. He could be the mono red deck. I have played against this deck. Reflector Mage is a great draw. I'm just going to immediately have 6. No point in declaration starting anything. I'm just going to sack this clue. I have no problems taking this damage. Deck and Stone is very strong in this matchup. Having the second one will definitely help us if we are interested in that. Yeah, we'll just draw a card and take it. Alright, Thalia is also very good. Okay, I'm going to cast Thalia here. And we'll attack with Threat Inspector. No, I'm not going to attack with Threat Inspector. There's a reasonable chance he has just an Incendiary Flow or something like that. And we lose a reasonable amount of value by letting him attack. And the gain from dealing him 1 damage isn't super high. Next turn, we're likely going to Reflector Mage and then start trying to go on the aggressive. Interesting. Okay, sure. That makes sense. So you're going to kill our Thalia. Alright, take 5. That's fine. Alright, that's an unfortunate draw, but it'll have to do. I will be attacking this turn because I'm going to Reflector Mage the Apprentice. Yeah. So we're like now slightly worried about this Smuggler's Copter. Oh, he has black in his deck. Okay. That's interesting. So the black is likely for unlicensed disintegration is kind of my immediate thought. I've played against the mono red version of this deck before. I haven't actually played against a black red version, so I'm kind of guessing here. Alright, so he's got a temper. Alright. So we got a 5. This is pretty awkward. Our best draw is probably a Stasis Snare. Alright, we're at 2. Almost certainly just dead. We did draw the Stasis Snare. I'm going to attack with this Reflector Mage. And we're going to... Actually, another thing we could do is we could deck and send the Courier and then just play Selfless Spirit. I kind of like that. But, I mean, we're very likely dead anyway. Sure. Yes, we knew he had that. So I just block. So he doesn't have third temper. Okay, add second copter. Yeah, perhaps this line was slightly forget he had Inventor's Apprentice. I also definitely should have sacked the Selfless Spirit. Playing a little bit loose. We will try and tighten up though. Alright, so we were like dead anyway. That's fine. Alright, so post-board against this deck, things we're interested in are Fragmentize, Immolation Glare, or Immolating Glare, Blessed Alliance, both Gisellas, the Linvala. Actually, not the Linvala, that's a little bit too slow. Cards you're less interested in are Gideons. Gideons are a little bit slow. I like Reflector Mages, I like Spell Quellers, I like Stasis Snares. I am going to shave Unavison, just because the card's like somewhat weak. We are on the play. I do like shaving a Copter on the draw. On the play, I think I will keep them though. Might just shave. The one thing that Gideon does do nicely is the first Gideon I will the first Gideon level often gets you to a point where your stats are just very awkward for the opponent to deal with. Like Spellcore being a 3/4 flyer lets you block Smuggler's Copter, and it also doesn't die to any 3 damage removal spell. So I do like that sort of part. I actually might cut a deck in stone, just because the sorcery speed and giving them the clue is slightly less good. And I might just cut a Copter in general. Drawing multiple Copters is very bad in this matchup, just because you could never afford to crew them all, and drawing multiple Copters can be acceptable when you are more likely to get your Copters in and trigger them, and so you can discard excess Copters, but in this matchup I feel it's very unlikely that that's going to happen. I will keep this hand. This hand's pretty good. We can deal with an early Copter. Gisella's great if she doesn't die, but it's just like we're just gonna play threats until that they have and try and overload their removal. Alright, they played a tap land turn 1, which is fine for us. We drew the 4th land, so Gisella's online now, which is kind of nice. Is there a Copter? Yep, that's a Copter. We are going to immediately kill it. Prairie Stream. We're going to play this Prairie Stream first, just because it's a more valuable land to have in play. Having the plains in hand, it's like very reasonable that we might draw other basics, and then we just want to we'll want to just maybe discard them to Copters, and so if we're going to be discarding lands, we'd rather have our good lands in play than have our good lands in our hand and end up having to discard them. It's just a small optimization there. We're going to jam this Gisela here. It's somewhat... I feel like it's slightly unlikely our opponent can attack with Copter and Madness of Fiery Temper this turn, but I mean, like, if they have 1 drop into Fiery Temper, then that does do it. Okay, so that's what they have. It's like somewhat lucky, but I mean, you know, that'll happen from time to time. So we're going to very likely Reflector Mage next turn. Never mind. We are going to ship the turn. You can make a case for playing Reflector Mage here, but the thing is, if I play Avacyn here, even if it dies to an unlicensed or something like that, if I draw a land next turn, then it's much better for me because I can play 2 spells. Whereas if I play only 1 spell, then it's a little bit. If I play the Reflector Mage, leave 2 mana up, and then I draw a land next turn, it's a little, and I want to play Avacyn, it's just slightly less efficient. And I think in this matchup, just playing our cards as efficiently as possible is actually very important. All right, so we'll see what our opponent discards. We're really happy actually if it's Temper here, because going to our face doesn't matter really, and then that guarantees that our Avacyn doesn't die to a licensed disintegration. Okay, so he has a Scrounger. We're also going to jam this. So when you leave 5 mana up, you are kind of playing face up. Alright, so he has the unlicensed, which is unfortunate, but I mean, there's not much we can do. We go to 9. That's one of our less good draws, which is slightly unfortunate. So we'll bounce the Inventor's Apprentice. We're going to be taking 3 again here. Hopefully we draw a land next turn, or something like another Avacyn would be all very good draws. Stasis Snare is also completely acceptable. The double Smuggler's Copter draw is like pretty hard to deal with, as people talk about a lot how Smuggler's Copter is actually, or sorry, Blue White Flash is one of the worst Smuggler's Copters decks because you're just playing it because like the card is very good. The act of discarding a card doesn't actually give you any value, right? In this deck, they're discarding Fiery Tempers and Scrap Heap Scroungers. In the Zombies deck, they're discarding Haunted Deads and Amalgams. In the aggressive Delirium variants, they're okay. Also notable, they discarded the Adventurer's Apprentice that we bounced. In aggressive Delirium variants, they're discarding new card types to their graveyard. Whereas in Blue White Flash, we're just kind of like doing whatever. All right, so he's transgressed us. I assume he's taking Reflector Mage, but he could take Spellcaller. Depends if he has another creature or not in his hand. If he has another creature, then probably just take Spellcaller. But if this Bomat Couriers has only creature, then Reflector Mage makes more sense. Yeah. Okay. So he takes Reflector Mage. All right. And he had a Scrap Heap Scoundrel, so I'm not certain I agree with the Reflector Mage pick. That's pretty good. I'm just gonna say yeah. I'm really interested why he took Reflector Mage there. Because, like, I drew another Reflector Mage and I just do not feel like playing it. That I am going to Spell Color. Should have F6 because we are representing any of our 2 mana instants. Sure. I mean, we're dead to like a large number of cards here, so I mean that's fine. Again, we need to draw like a land or another way of interacting with our opponent. They had the answers for our threats. Okay. Yeah, so I obviously have to block this Scrap Heap Scavenger. Would be nice if we could punish him with an Immolating Glare here, but we don't. Block here. Trying to thinking what our outs are. They're very few and far between. That definitely doesn't do it. All right, so that's game 1. That's a rocky start, but it's fine. You'll see in round 2.